Hello and welcome to the Just Car Insurance Australian Drifting Grand Prix. Today on location at Sydney Jamboree. I'm Andrew Hawkins and joining me, Championship Manager Brett Wilkinson.
Thanks Andrew. We've got a jam-packed show today, but first off, joining us, Rob White, winner of round 3 and two-time Australian drifting champion. Welcome, Rob.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
So, Rob, last year Michael Rosenblatt took over as Australian champion. You had a bit of a mixed season, though, debuting a new car and having a couple of issues here and there. How is the 370Z now, though, that it's starting to appear quite dialed in and quite competitive?
Yeah, look, I mean, last round was the first round that we actually felt that we had a race car that could, go the whole distance and win a round. So we've really got our head around it now. I'm feeling really comfortable in it. So we're feeling confident for the rest of the season. The first 2 rounds didn't go away, crashed out in top 8 both rounds with 10-0 advantages. But look, we've got a car now. We're happy with it. It's a great package. It's competitive. It's fast. So
now round 3. Look, you took the win. It's good to see you back up on the podium, but it wasn't without any fair share of dramas.
No, it was a very, very hard day. Qualified last with we had a little linkage on our carburetor come off, so we had no throttle as soon as we threw in the first entry, and caused us to forfeit. So yeah, no qualifying last. I was frustrated. I was sitting in the pits like, oh, this is going to be a horrible day again, like we always been having. But and then we ended up with a lot of reruns. Underestimated some guys. We went out there. We had the dramas for earlier in the day, so we weren't paying as much attention to other drivers as much as normal. And there were some new drivers in that series that I came against. So Joel Dimmack and Bo Stanton. A few of those guys that we had to go against that we'd never really seen in competitive drifting before. So we underestimated them. We let them get away on our lead runs and we cooked the clutch. So the battles against Gavin Edwards and Beau Yates were very trying on the clutch. We definitely cooked the clutch when I probably had half the horsepower when I versed Joel Dimmack. It was a very hard day. So it was very rewarding at the end. We certainly went out and celebrated that night, because it was hard down the office and it was very rewarding. So that was a good day.
Well, obviously that win has jumped you up to 3rd in the championship. You've technically got enough points now that you have the ability to win the championship, as long as you do obviously better than the guys ahead of you. Do you have a game plan now coming into the final round?
Look, I think we just need to, we've done it before. Look, definitely the 2013-14 season, we had a bit of luck in that championship in the last round. Some people fell off that sort of had that championship at the very last minute. But we've been doing it long enough now, and I've been in this situation a few times now where it's really about managing the pressure more than the driving. If you can really manage that pressure and you can operate at your best under an enormous amount of pressure, I think that's probably one of the strongest things. If you've got a competitive car, you're driving well, all those things are great. But if you can't manage it when you're got one battle to become a crowned Australian champion, if you can't manage that pressure, and there's a lot of guys there that probably haven't been in that position. Josh Botcher, I know he's going to be desperate to win a championship. Beau Yates would love to win an ADGP championship. I know that. Rosenblatt's hungrier than ever to win, keep that championship alive. So there's a lot for them to lose, and I'm hoping that makes them crack under pressure. Whereas I've been there a few times, we've got a couple of championships. I would love to win it, but look, if we don't, it's not the end of the world. We certainly tried. We had a hard year, so if we can come up on that top 3 even, we're going to be happy with it. Obviously, the win is at what we're tying in, but it's all about just managing that pressure when it comes to those important battles towards the end of the day if we're still in there running. So I think that's where it'll come. I think someone will make a silly mistake and probably not sleep for a week over it because just something stupid, and hopefully that's not me.
Now Rob, at the end of last year, we seen you take the 350 that you'd won the championship in before over to Jakarta for the first round of the Asian Drifting Grand Prix. You got back up on the podium. You drove extremely aggressive all weekend, and we noticed a little of that aggression style come back in for Queensland. So what's changed? What's your mindset?
Something has clicked in my head, and I've realised the sport in 3 years has completely changed. It's no longer about you can no longer run at 90% and end up in the top 4. It's no longer like that. Now we've got 10 guys that are like versing Luke Fink. They throw crazy entries, they get crazy proximity. So I've had to realise that, we have to go back to driving 100%. We can no longer drive at 90% and expect to win a battle, no matter who it's against. There's so many guys out there. Sounds silly, but when they come against me, they throw everything at me, generally, because, I've got the fast car, we've got a couple of championships under our belt, so whenever I get a competitor coming against me, they usually give me 110%, so I can no longer drive at 90 because, I've got a big target on my back, as with Rosenblatt, Bo, and, all those other top drivers. You've got these other 32 guys that they want to beat you, and especially if you've been an Australian champion or you've, you're deemed as successful in that sport. Everyone just will throw 100% at you, and that's really hard now. You have to really think you can no longer play it safe because you're going to get beaten. So I've decided just to throw it down, with everyone, like it's a final battle in 2012 with Luke Fink or Rosenblatt or anything like that. So I think that's probably what's changed.
So Rob, let's talk about the car now. For those that haven't seen the new 370Z up close, run us through it. What engine is it? What gearbox, drivetrain, suspension? What's the major work on the car?
First of all, it's a Penske NASCAR engine. It's a Dodge Mopar-based engine. It makes 820 horsepower at the flywheel, and it sounds great. It revs to 9,000 RPM, so it sounds really, really cool. And we've got our Hollinger sequential, which is out of the older spec V8 supercars. It's a 6-speed sequential gearbox. We run Racing Logic suspension. We've always run Racing Logic since 2011. It's got the TDP steering kit in it as well from Ireland. So, at first that was a big thing to get a head around.
Well, thanks for the insight, Rob. It's time to throw some cameras in your drift car so that the viewers at home, you guys now get to check out what it's like to go for a ride in a NASCAR-powered drifting monster. Hello and welcome back to the Just Car Insurance Australian Drifting Grand Prix. We're on location at Sydney Jamboree, where we're running the drifting demonstrations and the ride of your life experience. In fact, we've teamed up with Jamboree for all of 2016. Brett, tell us a little bit more.
That's right, Andrew. Just Car Insurance is a huge supporter of the Australian Drifting Grand Prix, now also a huge supporter of the Jamboree Tour. You're going to see the Just Car Insurance Australian Drifting Grand Prix at all 3 events: Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne. Now, Melbourne especially is going to be an exciting one. It's going to be the first time ever that we're going to run the State of Origin event. That's state versus state, team versus team, and we can't wait. The Thunderdome's going to go off.
Well, we're looking forward to it, but first up, let's take a look at what Jamboree is all about. Take a look at the drifting demos, and we'll take you for the ride of your life. Jamboree is the original and best sports compact drag racing and entertainment extravaganza. With Just Car Insurance on board as the naming rights sponsor for 2016, Jamboree is holding 3 events once again: Sydney, Brisbane and Melbourne. With Garrett Turbo as the presenting sponsor and plenty of entertainment lined up, the first event of the year kicked off at Sydney Dragway in a big way. While qualifying was happening on track, there was a whole heap of entertainment happening off track. First up, the Babe Comp. Another thing to check out was the Just Car Show and Shine on the East Bank, where you could watch the racing while you checked out some cool street and show cars. There was also a huge range of traders so you could check out the latest and greatest performance products. Since being introduced in 2014, drifting has been a smash hit at Jamboree. For 2016, Jamboree teamed up with the Just Car Insurance Australian Drifting Grand Prix to run the drifting demonstrations and the ride of your life experience. It is one thing to watch, but to experience is even better, as plenty of people did inside the Direct Clutch Services drifting arena.
No, I'm not going for a ride, man. Drift cars scare me.
Cry. That was so scary. Thank you, that was awesome. I had so much fun. Thank you. It was amazing. It was terrifying but amazing. It was pretty good, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Jamboree is all about drag racing, and as usual, the racing was fierce, as 11 categories battled it out. Next stop, the birthplace of Jamboree, Willowbank Raceway in Queensland on August 27th. More information at jamboree.com.au. Welcome back. You're watching the Just Car Insurance Australian Drifting Grand Prix.
We're joined on the show now by drifting veteran Bo Yates, the driver of the Achilles Radial Toyota 86. Welcome, Bo.
Thanks, fellas. How are you?
So, Bo, you've joined Team Achilles this year. How have you found the switch of tyres? Are they really as good as what all the drivers have said they were?
Oh, absolutely, Andrew. I mean, I noticed, well, the team noticed straight away, just with tyre pressures and spring rates. Definitely, and even on entry, I've noticed that you've got to go in a lot harder because the grip available with these Achilles is just phenomenal.
So, Bo, the car's performing great. You've joined the Achilles team, as Andrew just alluded to. There's some pretty big names in that team.
Oh, absolutely. With Rob White, myself, Nick Coulson, Brad Toohey, there's a handful of us that are now running the Achilles, so yeah, it's a really good squad.
Now, Bo, we've noticed since you debuted the 86, you've slowly stepped up the power, 4-cylinder to 6-cylinder. It seems to have a little bit more power each time we see it out there. What sort of power is it on now, and what's it like to actually drive now that it's had a couple of years of development?
Yeah, well, I mean, when I first built it, it had a very standard knuckle in it and the 4-cylinder, but now with the 6-cylinder, we've gone to the Wisefab setup. So you can drive it a lot deeper in the throttle around the turns, but it's making around 530 kilowatts.
Round 3,
Yeah.
you got on the podium.
Yeah.
Was it all smooth sailing?
Well, not so much. I mean, I tangled up with Greaves in practice, and then we got him again in I think the top 8, and we tagged again. So, you know, it's not drifting without your incidents over the weekend. So it was just pretty much a standard round.
So, Bo, now you've moved into second in the championship, only 2 points between you and Botcher, which is almost totally insignificant. Is the pressure on now, and is there a game plan for the final round?
Well, I try not to think too far into it, but it was a funny one, Brisbane. We qualified second, finished second, and then we're 2 points behind Botcher going into the final. So, you know, there's so many good drivers in ADGP. It's anyone's luck at the end of the day, and we'll just be pushing hard as normal, and hopefully, I think we've got to finish in front of all of them, so we'll just be looking to take out the round.
Yeah, look, it's definitely tight at the top there. Now, Bo, for those who don't know much about your car, tell us through engine, transmission.
It's got a 3-litre 2JZ out of the Toyota Supra in it. It runs a sequential 6-speed gearbox, and it still actually retains the factory differential. So that's a Toyota diff that's been around for a few years, and they've used it in the new 86. I've just beefed up the axles, and touch wood, the car's been super reliable for me.
Now, Bo, you've had a lot of support in your drifting career, and that's what it's enabled you to keep going for over 10 years now. Tell us about some of your long-term supporters and some of the new ones, obviously, now that are helping you this year.
Obviously, Toyota Australia, I've had them since 2005, so, we're going on 10 years, actually. We had a year there that we stepped away, but we've come back, so this is probably my 10th year with Toyota Australia, which is great. They've been really good support for me over the last 13 years or so of competition here in Australia. Obviously the boys at Hypertune, they're a local Australian-based company. We all know their product. They've got fantastic product, and their workmanship is second to none. And those guys support me through thick and thin, and there's always a spot on the hoist or in the factory. Nothing's ever a drama at Hypertune. So, they've been with me from the start, and I'm truly grateful for what they do for the team and the car. And obviously this year, getting on the Achilles radial team, that's a huge step forward for the team. We now got the tyre, we're getting the results. Just everyone involved. The GCG, Garrett Turbos, Brett was with me back in 2003, I believe, in the old AE. So, GCG Turbos, another local company that's been supporting me for many a year. But, there's too many people to kind of remember offhand, actually.
Thanks for the insight, Bo. Now let's get the cameras inside the car so we can show you at home what it's like in the 86 with Beau Yates.
At Just Car Insurance, we're into imported, high performance and modified cars. So if it's not just a car and you want comprehensive insurance that offers easy pay by the month premiums, call Just Car Insurance on 13 13 26 or buy a new policy online and save $50.
Welcome back to the Just Car Insurance Australian Drifting Grand Prix. Now it's time to catch up with the guys from Drift School Australia for this episode's Drift Tip.
Hi guys, I'm Fernando from Drift School Australia, and for today's drifting tip we are talking handbrakes. A handbrake is very important in a drift car as it's used to control the drift and adjust your line. If you're only centimetres away from the car in front of you, you want to make sure your handbrake works correctly, so that you can make the necessary corrections during the chase. The handbrake is also a great way to learn as a beginner. Now it is important to make sure your handbrake works correctly. On a factory car, if you pull the handbrake, it gets stuck on. So you want a handbrake button to put on your handbrake to stop it from locking into place. Another way to do it is put some gaffer tape over the handbrake button. You also want to make sure that your handbrake is adjusted before heading to the track, which requires adjustment of the cable. And for the ultimate, you can install a hydraulic handbrake, which is much more consistent but for track use only. There it is, the drift tip for today. See you next time.
Well, one of the biggest supporters of drifting in Australia is Just Car Insurance. They've been the naming rights sponsor of ADGP since the very first event in 2011. We caught up with Simon to see how much drifting has grown in that time and what we expect in the future.
Well, in the 5 years that we've actually been, supporting the national ADGP series, which is the premier series of Australia, Just Car Insurance has definitely seen an increase in the level of drifting, level of teams, and level of competition. So much so that the ADGP crew themselves have taken it overseas in the Asian Drifting Grand Prix. So drifting itself is going from strength to strength to strength within Australia, and we're seeing a massive following getting behind it, and it's just growing and growing. In terms of one single standout point, to be completely honest, there's so much excitement that actually goes out through the whole season, where basically I can't really just pick one. I mean, every round just gets better and better and gets stronger and stronger, and it's always a favourite on my list. So I hate to not be able to answer the question. I very rarely use the word hectic. It's a very Sydney term, but I tell you what, the last round is going to be super hectic. If I'm going to bet on someone, look, it's going to have to be between Yates and I reckon White. So, but you know what? Then again, it could be botcher. So who knows? It's up in the air. You've just got to watch it and be there and see.
Welcome back to the Just Car Insurance Australian Drifting Grand Prix. Now, before we take a look at a recap of this season so far, let's go right back to the beginning and take a quick look at the history of ADGP. The Just Car Insurance Australian Drifting GP started in 2011, with the very first event being held at the Calder Park Thunderdome in Victoria. The event was special not just for being the first event for ADGP, but it was also the first time the Thunderdome had been used for a major event in a very long time. A custom-built track was made, utilising the walls and the bank, and it made for plenty of action. The first ADGP event was packed, with grandstands overflowing as they came to see over 60 cars trying to qualify for the top 32 battles. The very first event saw Andreas Paraskevas in third place, Tarquin in second, and Luke Fink took the win. Round 2 headed to Queensland Raceway, and wild weather was mixed in with wild action. It saw the use of a custom layout never been used at QR before. Luke Fink made it 2 in a row with another win, defeating Josh Botcher in the finals. And Agus made the podium again, taking third. The final round of the first season headed to Perth, which also used a section of track never used for drifting competition before. Luke Fink made it 3 from 3, winning the round and taking out the very first season of the Just Car Insurance Australian Drifting GP. Denzo took second place for the event, which gave him third for the season, and while Agus didn't make the podium, he held on to second in the championship. 2012 saw ADGP grow to 4 rounds, and instead of any cars just turning up and trying to qualify, a registered driver system was put in place, so the same 32 drivers competed for the year in Pro Class, while anyone else could enter a separate privateer competition. The season kicked off in Tasmania at Symmons Plains Raceway. The first battle of the season-long war between previous champion Luke Fink and Rob White started here, going to Luke Fink this time around. Round 2 headed to Calder Park Thunderdome.
Yeah, boy!
This time around, Rob White defeated Luke Fink after double reruns in the finals. Round 3 headed to Malala Motorsport Park in South Australia. Once again, Rob White and Luke Fink looked like they would battle it out in the finals, but some damage to Luke's car in the top 8 meant he lost his top 4 battle. He still mowed the podium with third place, but Rob White's win put him in the lead of the championship by a narrow margin. The final round of the 2012 season headed to Barbagallo Raceway. Rob White's slight lead meant he still needed to make it to the finals if Luke Fink did, if he wanted to take out the championship. Rob had cooling issues, yet managed to make the finals to go head-to-head with Luke Fink. Fink won the round, but Rob's second place was enough to secure the championship. Meanwhile, Ben Purtell took third for the season. ADGP then switched to a summer season, meaning it started in late 2013 and went into 2014. But before that, ADGP held 2 exhibition matches. The Australia Day Drift Festival at Sydney Motorsport Park, the first ever event on the South Circuit. And ADGP also organised for Formula Drift Asia to come to Australia for the very first time, holding a joint event, with ADGP exhibition match on the Saturday and Formula Drift Asia on the Sunday. A smash hit combo. The championship season kicked off at Malala Motorsport Park. Rob White only managed 5th, and some new names hit the podium for the first round, with Agus in 1st, Michael Prosnik in 2nd, and Josh Botcher in 3rd. Round 2 headed to Barbagallo Raceway and a switch to the main track. The championship standings were thrown into a blender with a whole new top 5. Matt Harvey from Tasmania took the win. Dale Campaign's 3rd place put him into the lead of the championship after 2 rounds. Round 3 headed to Sydney Motorsport Park, and once again, the championship was thrown on its head. For the 3rd time running, we saw a fresh set of names on the podium. Andy Gray from Japan took 3rd, Rob White was back on the podium with 2nd, and Levi Clark took his first ADGP win. Rob White somehow managed to come out the other end in the lead of the championship, but only by the smallest of margins. And anyone inside the top 8 still had a shot at the title as we headed to round 4 at the Calder Park Thunderdome for the decider. The battles were intense and went down to the wire. Rob White was knocked out in the top 8 and came 5th, so he had to sit on the sidelines and watch and see how the rest of the event unfolded. Luckily for him, Michael Prosnik knocked out Nick Coulson in the top 4 and he secured 3rd place, while Beau Yates went on to win his first podium. Rob White made it 2 championships in a row by the narrowest of margins, with Nick Coulson in 2nd and Michael Prosnik in 3rd. The 2014-15 season kicked off at Barbagallo Raceway, and for something different, was held inside Power Cruise Perth. The new licensing system was introduced this season, meaning anyone with an ADGP licence could enter any round, and there was no longer a feeder or privateer competition run separately. Number 1 and number 2 from last season started strong, making the finals, with Nick Coulson getting the win and Rob White in 2nd. Round 2 headed to the Dome for another fiercely contested event. Rob White debuted his new NASCAR-powered 370Z, but problems meant he was out early and his championship hopes copped a big hit. Bo Yates and Michael Prosnik went at it again in the finals with a repeat of the previous season, and once again, Bo took the win. Nick Coulson managed 4th place, keeping him at the lead of the championship, with Bo Yates moving into 2nd and Rosenblatt into 3rd. Round 3 headed to Malala Motorsport Park, and the championship was thrown into a blender once again. Bo Yates' new engine package wasn't finished in time, so he missed the event and destroyed his championship chase. Rosenblatt had dramas in qualifying and started down in the order, but it was a blessing in disguise as he went up against Nick Coulson in the top 16 and defeated him, opening up the championship. Michael Rosenblatt and Levi Clark made it to the finals, with Rosenblatt taking the win and moved both of them ahead of Coulson in the championship standings, but like the previous season, only a handful of points separated the top drivers. This meant the final round was set to be a nail-biter, with 3 drivers all in with a shot at the championship, which was held at Sydney Motorsport Park, once again inside Power Cruise. Coulson knocked himself out early in the top 32, which meant the championship race was between Levi Clark and Michael Rosenblatt. Once Rosenblatt made the top 4, the championship was his, but he and Levi Clark still battled it out in the finals, with Rosenblatt taking 3rd. Meanwhile, Beau Yates and Josh Botcher battled in the finals, with JB taking the win, which also elevated him to 3rd in the championship. Levi Clark took 2nd, and Michael Rosenblatt became the new Australian champion in the Newlon Oils R32 Skyline. With 2 nail-biting seasons in a row, we can no doubt expect the same this year for the 2015-16 Just Car Insurance Australian Drifting GP. Welcome back to the Just Car Insurance Australian Drifting Grand Prix. We're currently 3 rounds into the season out of 4, and it's the closest championship race we've ever had. We are set for an epic final round.
That's right, Andrew. Now let's take a quick look back and see how the first 3 rounds unfolded.
The 2015-16 season of the Just Car Insurance Australian Drifting Grand Prix opened at the iconic Calder Park Thunderdome in Melbourne, the birthplace of ADGP. Reigning Australian champion Michael Rosenblatt continued his momentum and qualified in first place. The top 8 saw a few new names, including Brent Gordon, Jake Jones and Michael Bonney. Brent Gordon showed his Rookie of the Year last year was no fluke and made it all the way to the finals against Beau Yates. Meanwhile, Botcher and Rosenblatt battled it out in the battle for 3rd place, with Botcher making the podium, while Yates defeated Brent Gordon to take the lead of the championship, and this is how the leaderboard looked after the first round. Round 2 headed to Adelaide International Raceway for the first time and became our new highest speed track. Round 2 is a chance for the top drivers to try and break away from the others for the season, and Josh Botcher certainly was on that charge. He drew Beau Yates in the top 16, and he knew that it was his chance to take over the championship. Botcher took the win, and Yates' early departure would mean that Botcher could overtake him in the standings. Rosenblatt and Gordon were also looking to continue their charge in the championship, and both made it through to the top 4. The spanner in the works was young gun Jack Wittes, who returned to ADGP this round and battled all the way to the finals against Brent Gordon in the battle for 3rd place. The finals came down to Botcher and Rosenblatt. Looking at the mathematics, it turned out that if Rosenblatt won, there would be a 3-way tie, while if Botcher won, he would take the lead of the championship. So there was a lot riding on this battle. Botcher ended up taking the win and the lead of the championship. The results for round 2 looked like this. The top 3 in the championship were starting to make a break for it in the standings, while Yates and Rob White rounded out the top 5. Round 3 is the most pivotal in the championship. It determines if the leaders break away further for the finals or if things get shaken up. Being the home track of Botcher and Rosenblatt, many predicted these two would end up championship favourites by the end of the weekend. But anything can happen in drifting. Botcher qualified in first place, Yates in second, while Greaves continued to prove himself qualifying third and Rosenblatt in fourth. The big upset was when Botcher was defeated by Gavin Edwards in the top 16. This was Rosenblatt and Gordon's chance to strike, but in another twist of fate, Rosenblatt was knocked out after being penalised in a run against Joel Dimmack in the top 16. The pressure was now on for Brent Gordon in the PSA Ski Boats S15, but after double reruns, he was also knocked out in the top 16. The top 3 in the championship were all out early, meaning the standings would be thrown into a blender. Beau Yates used this opportunity well and battled all the way to the finals. Rob White, on the other hand, had to do it very tough. He qualified in last place due to car dramas, and then he had rerun after rerun all day, but he made it to the finals against Beau Yates. The Achilles teammates battled it out in a great final. Yates needed to win to take the lead of the championship, and Rob White needed to win to become a championship contender. In the end, White took the win, so Beau took second and Brendan Greaves took third. Botcher and Rosenblatt's high qualifying scores kept them inside the top 10 and their championship alive. And this is how the standings look now. Botcher just holds on to the lead, but Beau Yates moves into second and Rob White into third. Rosenblatt and Gordon remain in the top 5 and only 19 points separate them. So really, any one of them has a shot at the championship in what is set to be a nail-biting finish to the season in WA. Even better, the round is being held inside V8 Supercars Perth, making for an action-packed weekend. For more information, head to our website, australiandriftinggp.com.au.